Okay, welcome to another build video. We have this time, if you watched the Queen Mary video, we have another model of the RMS Titanic. This is by Revell. It is a 1:570 scale of the ship. And a couple of things about this particular model before we get into it. I have a confession about this model. I really didn't want it. You're probably thinking already right off the bat, well, if you didn't want this model, why'd you buy it? Well, the reason for that was I really wanted the SS United States, and nothing was going to stop me from getting that. So in order to get that, this model of the Titanic was bundled with the SS United States. That's how the person on eBay was selling it. So I had no choice but to get the model. So I figure, why not, let's just, since we have it, might as well just go ahead and build it. The truth is, as far as Titanic models go, I really wanted either the 1:350, and my dream model would be the 1:200 trumpeter. But this model, I can tell you right off the bat, it's already lacking in detail. So let's see. The hull is split in half. This is much like how the USS Arizona was. I'm not sure why Revell does this. Like the Arizona was split in two, just like the Titanic is, but the USS Missouri model was, the hull was one whole piece. And of course, I already cheated it and opened up the box for the United States, and that is one whole piece, the hull, just like the Missouri was. So I'm not sure why one ship, from one ship to another, they choose, either to split it in half or make one whole, but it doesn't matter. So all the pieces the whole thing is white, just like the Queen Mary was. We have one significant issue, though. No instructions. So I'm going to have to find the instructions for this model online, download them, and work on the ship that way. So again, like I was saying, with no lack of detail, and you won't be able to see this on the hull, but you can see the plating, but you cannot see the rivets. On the Queen Mary, you can see all of the rivets. It's a much more detailed model than what this is. But again, I had to get this model in order to get the United States, so I'm just going to go ahead and build it and do our best with it. So let's get started. Okay, so like the Arizona and the Queen Mary before her, on this particular model, first step is going to be to piece the hull together. And the way we're going to do that is we've got these basically like a male and a female part to the hull. The port side has like these male parts, which we will connect into the female parts on the starboard side. And it looks like this one's going to go together a lot better than both the Arizona and the Mary did. There were giant seams in the middle of the hulls on those two, where we have a much tighter seam and not quite so much a big gap on this one. So that's going to be really nice to deal with. And of course, we're going to apply some very, very generous amounts of glue to make her stick together. And then you see the rubber bands over here. We're going to put rubber bands all around the hull. And that's how we're going to get her to hold together. So without further ado, let's get to it. Okay, so we've got the hull assembled, and look at that nice seam running up the whole length of the ship, all the way from the bow to the stern. It looks fantastic, no gaps at all. This is the first one that I have not had to force together or do anything excessive as far as trying to get the whole thing to stick together. The Arizona, there was I had some issues with that. What I had to do was, if you remember, I put some sprues, I super glued them all the way down the hull to make sure it binded together. With the Queen Mary, there was just a big gap right here in the forward section, and I tried and tried and tried and could not get it together. It just wasn't happening. So I ended up having to use putty to get that part of the Queen together. But again, we've got a nice clean seam here on the Titanic. A few things about this model. Their paint schemes are kind of odd to me. And I know a whole lot more about the Titanic than I do the other ships. So, for example, over here on the forecastle deck, and I'll show you the actual piece right here, they're calling for this to be painted light gray. The hatch cover was not light gray, it was white. Here on the well deck, this bottom section here on all four sides, it was like a half orange or copperish type color halfway down, and the upper part was white. Let me point that out maybe with this. So like down here, the lower half would have been that color, and then the upper half would have been a white. They're not calling for that, but I'm going to try and get that correct. On here, on these cowl vents, they're calling for the hull to be flat red. There is no red anywhere on the exterior of the Titanic that I'm aware of, other than the flags. And we can always go and reference Titanic Honor and Glory to verify that. And if you watch my past streams of their demos, you also know there was no red anywhere on the cowl vents. So those are going to stay white like they're supposed to. On the lifeboats, they're saying the tarps that covered the lifeboats should be light gray. They were not light gray on the Titanic, they were white. So it's just little things like that that I'm going to do my absolute best to try and get it as accurate as I can to the actual ship. And with a model this small, there's no way it's going to be 100% accurate, but I will do my best. All right, so here's the hull of the Titanic. You can see we've got the black on it. Now the red is on here at the bottom, just have not removed the masking tape yet on it. But the next thing we're going to do is I'm working my way from the bottom to the top. Next is like the thin gold stripe that's going to run the length of the ship. It's going to be a bit of a challenge because it seems like some of these windows are a bit too low, and the stripe could end up overlapping them. I may not have a choice in the matter but to do that, but I'll see if I can figure something out on that. But that's where we're at with this right now. So continuing on, once we finish getting that done, I've already started working on the decks. This one's partially or mostly painted. I'm using the same paint that I used to paint the decks on the Queen Mary, which is this Revell aqua color. It's an acrylic paint. It's a beige. Because for one, I already have it, and the decks on the Titanic were a very light tan color as well. So it really just kind of works out, that way. So that's where we're at right now, and I've got everything that can be painted white, with the exception of the superstructure here on the hull, painted white. And now that it's black, I can see a lot more detail in the hull that I couldn't see previously from it being, the shiny white plastic. It's still lacking a bit in detail, actually, compared to the 1-700 Academy model, which is the ship I already built. But it's looking better now that the black paint is on it. So that's where we're at right now, and continuing on. All right, so the hull is done, and I'm about to start peeling the masking tape off. And while all of that was drying, I went ahead and painted all the wooden parts of the decks. There are so many pieces. This is the boat deck here. That's going to be the bridge right there. I almost don't even need the instructions for this because I know this ship pretty well. That's it. That's all of the deck pieces. So without further ado, let's go ahead and see what kind of touch-ups we're going to have to do on this hull once I pull the tape off. Okay, yeah, so definitely some touch-ups needed here and there. Yellow stripe didn't come out perfect, but you know, it'll have to do. A little few spots here and there on it, a little white spot on the bow over here. But for the most part, I mean, it looks really good. So I'm pretty happy with it. Okay, so getting the stern section into place was rather a huge deal. It was a whole lot more complicated than what it should have been. And the reason for that is all along the inside of the hull, you've got these little circles. I'm not sure what they are, whatever you want to call them. It's part of the molding that are protruding out into the interior of the hull, and they've got some that are in place where you're supposed to line the pieces up. So it's definitely created a problem with lining up the pieces inside correctly. I had to cut away part of the stern. You can't see it now because it's now covered by this piece I just popped on. And some of them I've been able to like take the sprues and just go at them like this and trim away some of them, which allowed me to get the very back of the stern fully in place. But it has been causing an issue. I don't know if they were thinking when they decided to do that. They need to check their mold or something, because it definitely made this a lot more complicated than it should have been. But we got it fixed. It's looking good. Yeah, so we have the bow in place as well. I believe next is going to be the A-deck promenade section. And then, of course, boat deck and the bridge, and keep going up from there. One thing interesting about this model, notice that the A-deck, this is going to end up being A-deck promenade. It does not extend from the complete side to side of the ship. I don't know why they chose to do it that way. Nonetheless, they did. In the end, it doesn't matter because I've already tried out the boat deck above it and it fits exactly the way it's supposed to. So it's not too big a deal. It's just gonna look a little weird on the stern section when you see it not joined together. But, oh well, not much I can do about that. Okay, so that is going to wrap up this first episode of this new series of building a larger Titanic. But is it a better Titanic? As you can see, I've got the baby Titanic here in front of me, and I'm looking forward to completing this one so we can do a side-by-side comparison to see which model do we think is better. We're going to find out. But thanks again for watching, and until the next episode, drive safely.